You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again, and today we have another show lineup for y'all. Man, today is going to be a great topic. We're going to be talking about career and personal development. We all need that. We all need great leaders in our organizations. And with that, we have our special guest. Her name is Jann Freed, and she has an awesome website that you should check out. It's jannfreed.com, where she helps you, the person that needs that development from finding your purpose and being a leader and finding your true meaning. But the main core of today's topic, outside of all that, is Breadcrumb Legacy, how great leaders live a life worth remembering. So first and foremost, I just want to welcome Jann to the show and say, how you doing?
I'm doing great. And thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate it.
So kind of talk to the audience a little bit about what you do and kind of your journey, how you got to where you are.
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, my first career, I was a college professor at a small liberal arts college in Iowa. I actually live in Des Moines, Iowa, the capital of Iowa. So a small liberal arts college, and I taught business management and leadership. I only did that for about 30 years. And after 30 years, my three adult sons now, they all graduated from college, not that college, but similar small colleges. And I thought, I want to do something different. And I really had this kind of inner drive to practice what I was preaching. So for 30 years, I had been talking about, how to manage, how to lead, but I hadn't done much of it myself. I had done some volunteer leadership, but really hadn't done much of it. And in order to do it, I was going to have to make a life change because I had to drive 50 miles each way. So basically an hour each way to get to my job. And we don't live in Iowa because traffic is, we don't have a lot of traffic. So I'm driving 100 miles a day. And so I joined a leadership development firm. I'm really self-employed, but so I do leadership development and coaching, speaking, writing. I actually have a podcast myself called Becoming a Sage, where I interview thought leaders on wisdom about life and work. So I wanted to make a change so I didn't have to drive so much and so that I could practice what I was preaching. And so, that's kind of my journey of how I got here. And then we can talk more.
And two, you're the author of the book, Breadcrumb Legacy. And that's all about how great leaders live a life worth remembering. And that ties into today's topic with personal development. And,
yes, it does.
and
yes.
With people in their careers, I mean, you yourself, you have that experience of having a career and being successful and having the responsibility of being a leader. Kind of tell us a little bit about your book, because I think that will all tie in today's topic.
All right, great. Well, this is actually my sixth book. It's only my second book that I've authored by myself. The previous book is called Leading with Wisdom, Sage Advice from 100 Experts. And I actually interviewed more than 100, but some of the top thought leaders about leadership. And one of the chapters that resonated the most out of that book is a chapter, which was a theme in the interviews, which is called Leaders Live Their Legacy. And people really, that kind of touched a nerve. And so I decided to do a deep dive into legacy. And my latest book that just came out a month ago is called Breadcrumb Legacy, How Great Leaders Live a Life Worth Remembering. Now, it does have leaders in the title, but the book is really for everybody because I say the most important person to lead is yourself. So what kind of life are you leading and what kind of life are you living? And those two things add up to kind of legacy. Often I will say to people, well, when do you leave your legacy? And people will say, well, at the end, when we leave. And I say, well, when we leave what? Well, when we leave the earth, when we die, when we leave a career, when we leave a job. I say, well, what about when I leave right now? What about when I leave this podcast conversation? I'm leaving some of my legacy right here and now with Shamaya. So, and with any of his listeners. So that's kind of the concept. And then I did a deep dive of what does that really mean to live a life that matters.
And also in the book, you're touching on, like you're saying, is everyday people. You know, we all have our responsibility and have the opportunity to leave our place better than the way we found it. You know, we have a role to play in our communities and our workplaces. And when you talk about in one of your chapters becoming nobody,
Uh-huh.
what does that actually mean?
That's a good question. Because most of us don't think, well, my goal in life is to become a nobody. The chapter is really about ego and how we all have to have an ego or we wouldn't even be able to stand up. But we have to have a healthy ego. And too often, our ego gets out of whack. And what I mean by that is our ego is there to protect us. So our ego wants us to think we're always right. We're never wrong. We're doing the right thing. And if you want to know how your ego gets out of whack or how you know it's really kind of out of balance, is the dark side of the ego, the shadow side, often manifests itself in anger, jealousy, greed, micromanagement. I said jealousy. Yeah. Competition, overly competitive. That's the ego kind of driving us. And really, if we want to lead and live a life that matters, we can't be controlled by the ego. We have to control the ego. And we have to make sure that, because we're all human and we all have these feelings, but if we don't know when they're out of control, then we're not really leaving a legacy that's good. I often say, we want to make, we want to make a difference. What kind of difference do you want to make? And we're all leaving a legacy, but it may not be good. So another word for legacy could be input, impact, or influence. What kind of impact are we leaving on, the community, our friends, our family, or even the environment? And so becoming a nobody is really about, actually one of the last sentences in the chapter is maybe becoming a nobody is really becoming somebody special. So becoming a nobody is just really all about controlling the ego, not letting the ego control you, and not doing things all about you, like thinking beyond oneself. And it's so interesting because now that we live in the world of selfies, it's it's real easy to get self-centered. I need to take a picture of myself, or look. And so becoming a nobody is about thinking beyond the self.
Yeah.
Yeah, good question.
Listen, I'll be Focused Radio talking to our guest, Jann Freed. And you can go to her website, jannfreed.com. And we're also are talking about your book that people can get anywhere, but it's really easy to remember. It's Breadcrumb Legacy, How Great Leaders Live a Life Worth Remembering. And another thing that is a theme with your book is this is little bit by little bit every day.
Yeah.
And it's not, because a lot of times we like to remember people after they pass away or retire or however. But this is a different thinking process.
Yes, it is. Yeah. I would say it can be your true north. It can be your guiding star. I really think it helps you stay on the right path. And, I've had people ask me in workshops, well, don't you think it's self-centered to be thinking about yourself all the time? And I'm like, well, it's really about thinking about the impact that you're making. And if you don't think about it, then how do you know you're even having a good impact? You could be having a bad, influence on others and you're not even aware of it. So it's really about being more intentional with everything we say and do.
And you also, you've been able to do TED Talks, and people know TED Talks is very popular and everyone wants to know the secret sauce. How can you be invited? But what was your experience like being able to talk at one of the TED Talks?
Well, thank you for asking, Shamaya, because it really is, it's a good process. You learn a lot, and they often set you up with coaches who will give you advice and tips. And It was a good process. But I might just say to your listeners that both of the TED Talks, one is called Embracing Death, Seeing Life Through a Different Lens. And the other one is called Becoming a Nobody. And both of them can be found on YouTube or whatever. But both of those reflect chapters in my book. So the Embracing Death, there's a chapter in my book with that title, Embracing Death, because in order to really live fully, you have to come face to face with your own mortality. And doing that, people fear that. And so there's a whole chapter in my book about why that is so critical to embrace. But again, both of those but going back to the TED Talk process, it's a great process and you learn a lot, and they provide you with coaches. And, I would love it if your listeners went to, on one TED Talk, I think I just crossed the 39,000 view line, the Embracing Death. The other one, I could use some momentum. So Becoming a Nobody. So either one, if your listeners wanted to know more, again, they're like 12 minutes. They're short. But if they wanted to learn more, I'd love it if they went and listened to the TED Talks, because views help. But no, I was honored to be selected. And it's getting tougher because I'd like to do another TED Talk based on this book, but I'm being told that they're trying to select people who have not been selected before, and they're trying to spread the graciousness around. So I doubt it will happen. But there are people out there that have a business in helping you find TED Talks. I didn't really use one necessarily, but there are people out there that you can pay who will, they say they'll help you find a TED Talk. So
when you look at how you built your life and how successful it's been based on your intentions to do great things, what was some of the core ingredients, values, system that you made over the years that helped you to keep in line with your purpose?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I like to say that my main strength is persistence. Now, some of my good friends say, I'm like a pit bull and I just don't give up. Okay. And some might even call it nagging. But I think my main strength is persistence. You don't really get a PhD unless you really can hang in there, take rejection. And so, I'm pretty good at rejection, especially when you go to publish. Anyone who's in the publishing game realizes that rejection is just part of it. So I would say persistence. I would say, my personal mission statement is to continue to learn and share what I'm learning, to continue to learn and share what I'm learning with others. And I do that through my podcast. I do that through writing, coaching, teaching, speaking. So I think continuing to learn and being persistent, kind of kept me on the path.
We're talking to our guest today, Jann Freed, and you go to her website, jannfreed.com, and you can get her book is real easy to find. You can literally Google it and it'll pop up everywhere. But you can check out Breadcrumb Legacy, How Great Leaders Live a Life Worth Remembering. And with today's topic, it all ties all in a full circle with career and personal development. I mean, in today's world, you can go on Amazon, you can find all of these books on personal development. But for our audience, as we kind of wind this down, when it comes to truthfully developing oneself, when you are serious about your life and you're serious about the career that you're pursuing and just basically being responsible of what you decide to be, right? Because no one can force you to do anything. You have to make a decision. This is the way I want to live my life. How does one start the process of starting where they're at on the map and begin doing that development?
I personally think it all starts with self-awareness. It all starts with an intention of personal growth. I want to become better. I want to become a better person. I want to be, if you listen to some of the interviews with, the top athletes, It's hard work, it's dedication, it's hours. Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book, and some people say it may not be totally accurate, but he kind of coined the phrase the 10,000 rule. You have to do something for 10,000 hours to really be a master at it. So it's hard work, but I think it all starts with that determination, that intention of, I want to learn, I want to get better, I want to improve at something. And when you have that awareness, then there are all kinds of, information and tools. There's all kinds of resources available to help you do that. But it only starts when you have that mindset that I want to change, I want to improve.
Man, that's good stuff, because I think in today's world, it's so easy to get lost and worrying about the things that don't even matter versus what can I just do at the moment. Like, it's not worried about, like, famous saying with Babe Ruth, you can't win today's games with yesterday's home runs. In other words, you got to keep swinging the bat.
That's a good one.
Yeah, because you got to get up every day and decide, I'm going to swing the bat. Even if I strike out, I'm going to keep swinging the bat, because yesterday's score doesn't, do anything for today's game.
Yep. I like that. I like that a lot.
When people are listening to this, what's one thing that you hope the listeners will take away, not just from your book, but just from your core message of them having the ability to leave a legacy and just using that breadcrumb mentality?
First of all, thank you for the interview, and thank you for mentioning, my book and my website. If your listeners go to my website, I have a 20% discount code from the publisher. It'll take a little longer than Amazon, but it'll make the book 20% cheaper than buying from Amazon. So that would be great. I would also say that whether your listeners buy the book or not, if they went to my Amazon book page and followed me, click on the book, the button that says follow, I'm told that really helps out too. All of these algorithms, it's hard for me to figure out. But so anyway, I just want to remind your listeners that if they go to my website, it's Jann Freed, 2 N's on Jann, 2 E's in Freed.com, there is a 20% discount code. But back to your question, what I would say is, I think what's really important is to realize that every day, in every little way, we are having an impact. And when we're intentional, I think it really does influence what we do, how we say, how we treat others, because people are going to remember. And there's a saying that I think is often attributed to Maya Angelou, and it is, people won't remember what you said, people won't remember what you did, but people will remember how you made them feel. And I think that that's what I'm talking about. Every crumb, it can influence how people feel. And I think that's important. We're not perfect. So I even have information in my book about forgiveness. We're not perfect people, but we can try. And when we make a mistake, we can apologize because we're aware that we made a mistake. Well, thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you for being on the show. Once again, that's Jann Freed. You go to her website, jannfreed.com, and connect with her. Get that 20% off from her publisher. It's right there on the top banner. You can't miss it unless you try to miss it on purpose. So once again, I want to say thank you, Jann. Take your time, your busy schedule, talking to I Am Refocused Radio.
I'm honored. Thank you very much.